Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
Every nation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. And I'm so used to saying at freedomslips.com, but it's now revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. And today we have a special guest, Miesha Johnston. We're trying to get her online here, and I'm not sure where she is. Okay, Amanda's pulling her in now to the discussion. So, Sasha, Dr. Lessin, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. Want to check on your connection, see if you can hear me, and I can hear you. Great, things are working. How about you want to tell our listeners a little bit about Miesha? I can pull up her bio, and then you can add to it. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, come on, computer, refresh. Here we go. Anyway, we've known Miesha Johnston for, I don't know, about between 5 or 10 years. And she's been in the UFO field for many, many years, like starting in 1991. She founded the Star Family Contactee, UFO Contact Center International, and Celestial Contacts in Nevada. And she worked as a member of Stephen Greer's C.S.E.T.I in Vegas in 97. And she was the coordinator of the Art Bell Chat Club's San Diego chapter from 98 to 2001. She's been interviewed on dozens and dozens of radio shows, including Art Bell's Dreamland. And she's spoken at conferences and conventions all over California, Colorado, Nevada. And she's a second-generational experiencer, which started having experiences at age 3. She's had numerous contacts and abductions and has been involved with at least 5 different alien types: the Greys, insectoids, mammalians, reptilians, and human-looking groups. She's had many MILAB experiences, and she's been in the underground bases, which include the Black Ops branch of our government, and some Grey and Reptilian factions. Excuse me. She was born and raised in an MK Ultra family, which started her trauma-based training for Project Monarch and put her into service at age 9. And I'm working on getting a hold of her. But one of the things that, one of the things that happened to Miesha is she had 2 extended missing periods of time, and they were up to 8 months each time. And during which time she had little or no memory what happened. And what's ironic is she was married, and she has a husband, and no memory of it all, but her family, remembers the wedding and all kinds of things. So she'll have to go into that story. And she has a book called Covert-Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control, the Autobiography of a Survivor. I think she has a different title for her latest book. That might have been her working title. And she's part of a new show called Transcending Realities Show. And she has a weekly radio show every Saturday on KCOR called Star Awakening. And she's a cast member of the iVault TV show, which is the Transcending Reality show. So she's a very accomplished special lady here, and I'll do what I can to get her on. Sasha, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. She says her electricity's been down and she can come on. So I will. Okay, you talk and I'll get that going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, so what we have here is we have a movement that's happening. Now that we have gotten past some of the scare tactics, and especially we've been able to sort out the military and the rogue abductions from the larger meaning and intensity of our extraterrestrial and those in the other sphere, as I call it, who are basically here to help us. The so-called abductions are really opportunities to bring up our health, to up-level our intelligence, to make us ready for the transition that this planet is going through. When we are reaching the point where we can evolve, all we have to do is stop doing the nukes and wars and pollution and a few things like that, and just love one another. And more and more people are realizing this, and we're not playing the game. We're basically stop participating in enslaving institutions, and we're really feeling our empathy for one another. And the experiencer movement, even though there's attempts by the military, the secret ops, and the satanics to mess it up and make it look junk, it ain't. It's a real thing, and we are disclosure. And Miesha is right in the heart of that.
Yes, and Mad is doing what he can to get her on right now. He's calling her home phone. But there are just dozens now of these super soldier type people that have been in the secret military programs. Hi, Miesha, it's Janet and Sasha, and you're live on air on the Sacred Matrix. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a little electrical issues at my home, so I had to, while the work is being done, I'm having to stay at my son's. So I can't
Oh,
get
my
on
goodness. Well, I'm glad we reached you. Yeah. Well, stuff happens. What can I say? But I'm glad you're here. We're talking about you and your new books. When you get back to your computer, please send me your revised bio. I forgot to remind you about that. And the pictures for your new books. Can you tell our listeners, you have 2 new books. What are your new books?
Okay, well, my first book is They Weren't Butterflies, which is our biography, and there's a reason why it's called They Weren't Butterflies. In the situation of being a monarch, monarch butterfly is that they use with people, and that is my father as a black magician, and he was in there in a secret organization, and he did the black magician things. He was also a hypnotist. He was a magician. He did illusions and things like that. And
what do you mean by black magician things? I didn't understand. What you said, he did black magician things. What's that mean?
Well, black magician. Okay, you have a magician who is, just doing your magic things. Well, my father would do a kind of a cult thing. It was called the Great London Ghost Show. And his show itself wasn't really black, to my knowledge, I don't think. He went on the road with the family, with my three of my siblings, and they did hypnotist. He was a psychic. He did psychic, readings while it was they did this very large, big extravaganza with ghosts and goblins and things like that. In fact, it was very eerie. People would write up in the newspaper how it was so realistic, and so I don't know if he used the black magic while he was doing his magic show, but he came to find out when he was in the Rosicrucians, and I'm not saying all Rosicrucians are that way. I'm just saying the sect that he was in was working with more of the occult black magic. And in fact, when he came home one day and told my mother that I've learned so much, and there's so much out there that is in the unseen world, and there's so much that we as humans can do, but it comes with a great price. And he moved a cup across the table with his mind. So he, in part, was also he was also the person who did the trauma-based mind control and torture on me. But going back to the book, so the book. Does that answer that question? Hopefully.
It sure did.
Okay,
Wow.
Except
you opened a whole bunch of other things about what he did to you. It sounds like it wasn't very loving.
No, it was not. It was not. And that's what this story is about from the very beginning, my childhood and some of my siblings and the things that occurred and the deaths in the family that occurred. There were many. There were 4 that were really, rather, if they happened in this time, they would be an unexplained and probably looked into. Let me just say this, that on my father's deathbed, which, by the way, the 2 of the oldest siblings would not come to his deathbed, nor would they attend his funeral. They cut all ties with him as soon as they became adults. And, of course, when they were on the show with him, they were young teenagers. And so there was definitely no love with them anymore because of the things that had happened to them. And but he said to me, he said, I'm so sorry I did the things I did, but I had to do them. I had to turn them over to you because at least this way you were able to live, survive, and we could see you and raise you. So to me, and he was very, very sick. He was dying of cancer and a brain tumor. And to me, it just really spoke volumes about how he had lost or they had lost 4 children. And I believe I never heard them say this. I never heard, and of course my mother I never knew, but he said that your mother could not handle losing any more children. So I knew that the factions that were using my family had killed the kids in different ways. You know, they died in odd ways. Like one died of carbon monoxide poisoning in a car. Another one, which all of us blame my father for. Of course, I wasn't born at the time, but the older ones blame my father for because he knew that there was a leak. So I don't know that, you know, it was a sacrifice. I don't know. My sister remembers him dying in the car, so I'm not sure about that. But then there was pneumonia, and there was tuberculosis, meningitis for one of them. That was the number 5 child. But then there was another child that had was hit on the back of the head and ended up having a seizure and embolism or something, what we would probably call embolism in these days. They just said he died from the hit to the back of the head. That was supposedly done by a child, a neighborhood child.
Miesha, did you actually see any of these any children sacrificed? Did you witness anything like that?
Well, not my brothers and sisters, no. But did I? Yes, I did see other children. Yes, I did.
And what happened to you?
At 4 years.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I said at 4 years old. It was my first time I saw anything like that, and then I subsequently saw them throughout my life at different times.
Wow.
And 4 years old is when my father started the trauma.
What happens to you when you're 4 years old? Could you describe where you were and what you saw when you were 4 years old?
Okay, I was terrified of the basement, and my father would, and all of us kids were terrified of the basement. And I know the reason why is, and because I was taken down in the basement, and the walls basically opened up, and there was a tunnel below that was opened up, and that they took me, or he took me to some kind of a what I later found out was the church deacon, is what I found out. But he took me to what was in our neighborhood this big old kind of like a haunted house. They hadn't had any buyers for it for a long time. The ceremonies would go down down in the basement, and so so that was right kitty corner from my house, and I believe and I'm sure that that's where I was taken through those tunnels over to that big house, along with my siblings.
Where was this? What city? What state?
Blackfoot, Idaho.
Idaho.
And Blackfoot, Idaho. Yeah, Blackfoot, Idaho. And Blackfoot, Idaho has it has a Mormon foundation, which is one thing. It also has, and I'm not saying all Mormons are bad either, okay? But there is a certain amount of ritual going on with that. And then it was well known for being a RA place, a ritual abuse place, and ritual sacrifice and things like that. It had if you look it up, there's a reputation. It has a reputation for that.
So who's doing this? Who's at the top? Wait, my turn. Who's at the top of this? Who's at the top of this food chain doing, orchestrating these rituals, training people like your parents to be handlers for you? Have you ever tracked that down to find out who's at the top of all this? Who's behind it all?
Well, I will tell you, I have seen politicians. Later on, during what I would explain to you that it was like the Eyes Wide Shut movie. I've seen politicians. There are actually, I'm going to say this, I'm not going to say their name, but two of the politicians recently resigned. One was the father of the politician, the son of the politician. The other one had was a politician. They recently resigned under Trump's administration.
Oh, okay.
So they're
And
very
say who they are?
high up. Congress senators. No, I don't say the names. I don't
Okay.
say names.
So
That's fine.
so you went in this thing with your siblings. Were you dressed a certain way? Were there other people in costume? Was there stuff? What was the ritual? What did you observe?
Okay, what I observed was there were several of us children there. We were all in white robes. They were what I saw mostly were men. I don't know if I ever saw a woman. I only saw men, and they were in dark brown robes. Now this was the childhood memories and such. Later on, I saw some different things. But in this particular one, they were in robes, and there was sexual sacrifice, and there was at that 4-year-old one. I don't know about. I can't tell you what date, what age I was at the time, but I do remember seeing babies sacrificed.
Did they make you do any of that?
I really cannot. I think you can tell by my answer. I can't really talk about that.
Okay, I got you. Okay, all right. All right.
But,
thank you. I'm sorry.
But we were controlled, mind controlled, and we were drug induced, and we were controlled completely. Let me put it that way. So.
Wow.
That went on throughout my childhood, and of course I do talk about these things in the book, and I also was put into some asylums. I think that some of those were I wasn't put into them by my family. I remember being in them with electric shock and other kinds of torture, deprivation, putting us in rooms where we were completely by myself, little rooms, like closet-sized rooms, and then no food or water. But so those are the deprivations. There was tanks and things like that. It's very hard to chronologically go through this. So at around 13 years old, I say, I don't remember any more of the torturing things. Maybe even younger, maybe 12. I don't remember any more of the torture. I think by then they had already been programming me since I was 4-year-old. My father was doing the at the trauma base. He had to do it. Now he was. I want you to understand too. He was mind controlled, and he was mind controlled from his Rosicrucian mother and father. I know. So it went on in the genetic line, and so I know he was mind controlled, and I know he did what he did. In fact, one time while he was torturing me in a object hurt and vaginally inserted and pain and things like that, he said, "I'm sorry I have to do this, but you have to learn how to go out of your body, to leave. You have to learn how to leave," is the word he used. You have to learn how to leave. You have to learn how to go. And so I did. I learned how to do that. So I didn't have. So then, of course, that starts in the altars. In fact, I through a lot of therapy in my life, I am determined and found out that at this point now I have 4 altars. The first one that was born at 4 years old was still around and in part of me as late as like 2009 or so. No, 2010, and she was called Darlene. And when the hypnotherapist asked her how old she was, she says when she was born, the date that she gave was that would make me 4 years old, and
wow,
and make her 4 years old. It is me, but it's her. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
It is me, but it's her. And so that she would be 4 years old, and she says, and I have been with her whole life, and if it wasn't for me, she'd be dead, because and my name was Miesha, so you'll hear this name, and Miesha would not have survived if it wasn't for me. She's too weak. She couldn't do it. So she was with me throughout my life, taking on the torture.
Does Darlene still help you at all nowadays, or is she not active at all?
No, she's not active at all. I've integrated all of mine that I can have come up with. That, like I said, there's 4. I have no reason to believe there's any more, but you never know. But they're all integrated, including the male. And the male was the one that did the torture, evidently to possibly the ritual sacrificer, whatever it is. It was a male that did that. And and he just came out at the very end.
So he was the one that could do things like that.
Yes, he was. Yes, in fact, Darlene would talk to him about being. Charles. Charles is the strong one. Charles is and she would talk during the sessions about Charles being the one that everyone else looks up to, and he's the boss, and you have to do whatever he says.
Wow.
But then when I integrated him, Charles sobbed for about an hour and just sobbed when it finally integrated. So he never really ever talked to the therapist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Wow, you've really come a long way, Miesha. This is amazing. Wow.
Yeah. I've been through a lot of healing, and it still continues because, of course, I have support groups where I talk to other people who have this experience, and I've been doing support groups since 1991 from people who are ET experiencers as well as MK Ultra and Targeted and MILAB and all of that. And because I had it, and I had no one to turn to and no one to talk to, because you just cannot share this with many therapists.
Right.
Especially when you have the ET aspect along with it, because along with that happening in my book, I also show how I was having ET contact, and the ETs were good and kind and loving, and kept me, in my opinion, kept me sane and alive.
Did your parents know that you were having ET contact?
Yes. Yes, they did.
How do you know that they knew?
Well, because I used to tell them about my invisible friends. I used to tell them about my friends that would come and take me up in the sky and fly. And so, did they believe it? I'm sure they did, because my father was an experiencer. He'd had ET contacts and an abduction, along with my sister when they were on the road traveling once with the magic show. So
they told you about that experience?
Yeah. It was really, they didn't get to really remember too much. It was just that they were driving down the road and saw something on the side of the car. He stopped. They knew it was like a being on the side of the road. And he stopped, and that's all they remember. And then when he came to, he got out of the car, and so did my sister, and they walked around to the front, and there were no footprints in the back of the car, no tire prints because they'd been there in the snow so long. It'd been snowing, and so the tracks. So they were taken. They didn't ever really investigate anything more about it. But I knew he.
What year were they taken? Do you know approximately what year that was?
Would have been approximately 1950. 1950 to 51, something like that.
So this was pre-Betty and Barney Hill. This was before Betty and
Barney.
They were in the early 60s, 61, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah, it would be. Uh-huh.
So that's good. So we're finding out that this goes back even further in time than what we think as the modern abduction era. So tell us a little bit more. Okay, what else do you want to tell us about?
53. Yeah, I said it could be as late as 53, 54, but it's still in the 50s, I know, because he only did his magic until about 56 or something like that.
Wow.
Where did the babies come from?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. They were just brought in. Later on, I know where they came from. Later on, they impregnated us, and I believe that some of us, they ended up sacrificing our babies.
Wow.
Right, that's what they typically do. Right.
Yeah, I have a memory of I was probably 16 years old, and I was handed a baby to nurse. Now, I wouldn't be able to be nursing a baby if I hadn't given birth to that baby.
Right.
Oh, I see. Do you remember being pregnant?
No. No, I don't. But I just have a memory of that. I mean, I could have been 16, 17, but I didn't have my actual missing time, which I go into in the book as well, until 1967, 68, 69. No, 68, 69, and 70 was a missing period of time, of years that I had, where they actually took me. Well, how that came about is I was at a college, and a man walked up to me, or to the group of us, and said, "Hey, you guys want to make some money? We are having a dream project, and you could just dream if you sleep, and we track your dreams, and then you get paid for it." And so I did that, and the last thing I remember is walking into that building, a red brownstone building, just off campus at the ISU, and then the next thing I remember is 8 months later in a bus, waking up and looking at a ticket that I didn't recognize the last name, and wondering what in the world and who is this and what am I doing on this bus, because I didn't remember anything at all, anything. I just woke up as if I just woke up from a nighttime and not remembered anything. I'm hearing some is that my sound coming from me?
I'm hearing, I don't know. Sasha, try muting your mic on the Skype.
Okay.
Is that back there? Let's see.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was just hearing some sound. Joe radio DJ in me. All right. So anyway, long story short, I found out that I ended up home on the bus because the bus ticket was bought for me by what subsequently I find out is my husband that I did not know I had. And I get home, and my parents, I called them when I get to the bus station, and they pick me up, and they tell me about this story about how I dated somebody. I contacted them. I told them to put a advertisement in the paper, announcement in the paper about our wedding. And then 1 month later, I got married to him. And the very next day, he took me, and they never saw me again until the night they picked me up at the bus depot. So I was definitely married to him. I got a marriage license and had the name and everything like that. I do have the copy of that in the book because I just felt that I needed to have that there. So I come to find out through memories that started flashing. In fact, while I was on the bus, memories started flashing. And I remembered this pulling up in this bus with about 6 girls and 6 boys. And the boys were ages like 11 to 13 maybe. And we pull up to this big iron gate, and it's nighttime, and we go through the gate, and we're taken around to the back, and we're taken up, and we are what they called party favors for this big soiree party that had celebrities, Hollywood celebrities, it had politicians, it had foreign dignitaries, and I believe it even had some aliens. I really strongly have some real strong feelings about some aliens, because later on I saw those aliens at a ritual ceremony, so I believe that they had shape-shifting reptilians there.
Wow. Do you recall any celebrity names? Anybody that...
Yes, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby.
Oh, okay.
Who else? Wow, that's all I can. I can't think of anybody else right now. I know.
Okay.
I know there was a woman, but I can't think of who that is. But that's all I can remember at this moment. And that's where I saw the politicians I told you have recently retired.
Okay, so we got a hint. They're going back to the, that was in the 70s, right?
That was in the 60s. I was
in the 60s,
1968.
Okay.
And then I also had memories and flashes that came to me about more things that went on. So, I started actually... I kind of backed off of everything and just tried to go on with my life, but I couldn't because I had such severe PTSD. I was such a mess. I had to start getting some therapy, so I started getting some therapy then. But all they would ever think of was that all of these thoughts and memories and things that came up were just me covering for my father. That I had made up the rest or something. The therapist in 1969 and 68, 69, actually I didn't see anybody till 69, and then 70, and then from then on I was going on a regular basis. They could not fathom ritual abuse, first of all. No, they just thought it would be, that couldn't possibly exist. So all they could do was think that it was incest.
Sasha.
So I saw,
didn't you?
And that was so sad for other people and for myself. And so when people come to me and they did, in my group since 1991 with these experiences, I had to have a place for them to be able to talk and share because I had nobody, and it just, extends the crazy feeling that you have, that you're crazy.
Right. Yeah, Sasha, didn't you work with people back in the 60s that had ritual abuse?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was several. And it involves shut up, kid. If you cry, we're going to sacrifice you. And
Yes.
but there was one person that was supposed to convey this spirit. There was all these different ritual positions, and it was just like it's such a recurrent pattern. You can't tell anybody because the whole big shots in the town are all involved, and they all cover up for each other. And it's utterly what I did hear that really strikes me is that your extraterrestrial friends tried to help you get out of this mess and deal with it. Can you tell us about the alliance, the guardians, the good guys that helped you?
Okay, well, it was not until later, when I was having experiences with the ETs. Basically, that was just, I think, to let me know that that I was loved and that I wasn't all alone.
Wow.
So who were your allies? Your ET allies, and how did that start?
That would be way past. That's in 1989, because throughout this whole time I had these things going on, and so in 1989, I had abductions going on. Now I also had MILAB experiences to add to this as well, which are the military re-abductions. Wow.
So what made you so important to them? Yeah, what makes all these people attracted to you? That's is it your bloodline? What is it? Why are they drawn to you? I mean, I know I've got some weird things like my blood, stuff like that, and my history of my family. Have you tracked that down? Are you still there? Am I still online?
Y'all showing all here.
Okay, everybody, where are you?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Me? Okay. Did you hear? Yes, go ahead. So you're starting to have MILABs and you're having ET abductions.
Yes. I'm having MILAB and that went on. Let me see. My kids I was 70. No, about 80, 81, 82, and then I was having MILAB experiences. Then in 89, I had a different kind of experience. Now, I'll just tell you a few of them before I introduce you to the ET. Okay, so understand.
Okay.
All right. So they were reptilians. They were greys. Sometimes greys would come and get me and take me on underground bases. Sometimes it was military that would, or humans, I should say, that would take me, and I'd end up in the underground bases. And then other times I saw reptilians in my room, and I would end up in underground bases. Like, for instance, an experience, I was with a group of people. We were in a elevator that was going down, and it was just kept going down and down. And there were people in front of me I could see. I couldn't see the people on the side or any place else. But they, I could see people. Some had pajamas on, some had street clothes, some had no clothes at all. And we were all in this zombie kind of catatonic state. And
the doors opened and we were pushed out, because there was a military guy in the elevator in front of me. There could have been some in the back too, because this is a very large elevator. There was a lot of people in here. So we were pushed out into this area, and they started pushing it to the right, pushing a group, myself that was in, to the right, and then to the left there was what I would say is tall grays. They would be tall grays, about 6 feet tall, beige in color, and like I said, they were off to the left. I was being pushed to the right, and I glanced over and I saw my 13-year-old son, who was being ushered over to those ETs. So that's an experience when I know my kids one of my children were involved in the underground and the lab. And then another experience where I was walking down you don't remember much of what's going on. You just get flashes and memories of some of the things. And so there was I knew a reptilian was walking next to me. I was walking down this corridor. It was like a hallway with a very shiny rock wall on the sides, and I remember regular like lights on the top, and as I was walking in this basically zombie catatonic state again, I did, however, notice that there were military. Not only military, but there I saw men, and I saw people with lab coats on and such, and they looked at me. I saw them look up and down, and they saw me, but they never looked at the reptilian. But I knew he was there, and so I thought to myself, well, now that's odd. Why are they looking at me and not looking at the reptilians? And shut in my mind. So passively, this is how come I found out why I was being abducted by the many encounters with the different ETs, was because I could interface and I could understand what they were saying and communicate with them. Translate in some places as well. So
you were
immediately.
A translator.
I'm sorry, what?
You were a translator.
Yes. And
they were interdimensional. The reptilians, they weren't really in there. The reptilians, they couldn't see the reptilians.
No, he was physical. No, he was physical. I just, but he shot in my mind this thought, the words. I mean, it's not just a thought. It's not just some words. It's the whole concept of pictures and everything that comes in when they communicate with you. And he communicated that because they know better, they must respect us and never look in our eyes. So that's basically, that's not the word per se, but it is the whole idea. Because when he said that, I saw how everyone looked down before they looked at the reptilians. They were not allowed to look in their eyes. So I believe that this level I was on, they were more than likely, if not in charge, they were really in a superior position. So
Miesha, did you talk to your son? Did you ever talk to your son about this encounter that you had, or his?
I didn't have to talk to him. The next morning, we woke up. When we woke up, I said, "So, how was your night?" And he said, "I had a really scary dream, Mom." What did you dream? And he said, "I dreamt I was in an underground base." So he remembers he had a dream about it. So he was remembering it. So, and of course, everybody knows that's how we remember is we get these dreams that we think they're dreams, and in a lot of cases they're the experience that's happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to him since then? Like, about that, like when he was older?
Since I wrote the book and I gave it to my sons, he shared it in group a few times. When he used to go to, they both used to go to my teen group that I had back in the 90s. I had a teen group, and they would share that and other experiences. He shared that before, but and then he also has shared other experiences where we were in a van together and a big, what he thought was a truck together. So it was a kind of, I think, more than once. I don't know, a common occurrence, but they took us more than once as together.
Okay. See, one of the things that I found out in therapy, when I get a brother and sister or people that were in the same experience and have them talk to each other, they both remember more. Each of them remembers more because they sort of trigger each other. So,
well,
you know,
and during the groups we did that. Yeah, during the groups we did that. But you know, something my kids haven't talked about it for. Well, he did talk about it about 4 years ago in one of my groups at my home, but he hasn't really talked about any of the experience. He says, I can't remember anything else, Mom. It's like it's fading away. The memories are fading away. And that will happen if people don't, if they're not diligent to try to retrieve the memories. If they just try to get in, you know, their day-to-day life and forget about it and stuff, those things will fade away until they don't seem important anymore.
Wow.
Right. So you have a relationship with some. You have a relationship with some of these extraterrestrials. Which ones are you involved with?
So, as I said, I had these reptilian encounters, and then one night in 1989, a being came to me in a, you know, a glowing form, and I started I had some encounters, going on board, experiences going on board the ship. And then it kept going on. Then I saw a man who looked as this beautiful blonde guy, and I'd see him and be taken on board. And then one night I said, I know you're not this man. I know you're not. I know you look different, and it's okay. I'm ready, you know. And, you know, he telepathically communicated with me. Are you sure you're ready? Are you absolutely sure? And I said, yes, I am. And so he revealed himself. And to me, you might call it shape-shifting, but to me it was more like he had been a more pleasant image for me that I could handle. Because I'll tell you why I said that, because later on I had a dream where he came again. Actually, I guess I was in an astral place, and I was someplace else. And I ran into the same beautiful man. And he said to me, and I said to him, I said, I know you're Ayano. And he said, but isn't this figure, what do you call it? Isn't this form more pleasing to you? Because I will stay this form. I can stay any form. So I just kind of knew that it's not shape-shifting. It's the ability that different ETs have to take on whatever form they choose to. So that's what I would think.
They can appear to look like whatever you want them to look like too. So they've said the same to me. Like, we're appearing in forms that you can accept, that you won't have that fear reaction or fight or flight or feeling frightened or negative towards. So they just keep showing up in forms. So we really don't know exactly what they look like unless we get.
Miesha, what did he look like? How many fingers? How many toes? Did he have nails? When he showed you his real form, what did he look like? How big was he?
Okay. So he showed me his form. There in front of me was this 6.5, 7 foot being, reptilian, darker green, more like like an avocado, but not. It was like a light avocado. You've seen some light avocados and dark avocados. It was the more lighter avocado color. The inside, where his stomach and his belly and stuff, he had kind of like this armor that was a lighter color, more like, I'd say, the color of an avocado. But it was it was part of his body. It wasn't like it was outside armor. It was like his body. I come to find that out later when I actually had physical touch to them. And then he also had no tail. He had, and he was very careful. He would not smile. Later on, he did smile, but most of the time he just gave a smile, never showing his teeth, because he didn't want to scare me. He had yellow eyes, and with the vertical slits. He was beautiful, actually. He was really a beautiful being. And now, another thing is, I'm terrified of snakes. And the first thought I saw of him, or first image I saw of him, it reminded me of a snake. But then I realized, and had been encounters with him for a long time, that he had been kind, and I felt his unconditional love. I mean that. I actually felt this unconditional love from this being. And I found out later, of course, why, because I'd had two lives with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold that thought. We have to take a commercial break and be back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. At Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a 5th dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Okay, somebody tried calling us back. You're live. I got to get the rest of them back.
Okay, aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Jen Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin, and guest, Miesha Johnston. And before we get back to the show, I'd like to please come over. Uh-oh. I think I'm online. Or am I off? Okay, hold on.
You're live, Janet. Hello?
Hello?
I don't know what happened to Janet.
Oh.
But you're live at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, since we're live, and then when you get someone, all right. So I had left off with talking about Ayano and what he looked like. And he was really a kind being and very, very kind and loving and protective. In fact, there was a particular situation, because he looks like the other reptilians. I believe that's the only way I can tell you is I believe that he was a spy. He had told me that his civilization and the Draconians had been at war for millennia, and that they were enemies. And so many experiences happened that showed that, including one situation where he actually saved my life when I was about to die. He came in a ritual ceremony, and I know, when I'm looking back on it, I know that I was going to die at that. I'm sure of it, because the people before me had been sacrificed. And he walked up to me. I walked up, and he was wearing a robe just like the other reptilians, because this was a reptilian. They were all in robes, and the reptilians. And he walked up to me. I walked up and evidently said something telepathically. There were some grunts, some growls, some noises between him and another one. And then he took me by the arm and led me off. And he said, telepathically, "Hurry, we must go before they find out." And so I believe he posed as one of them in order to rescue me. And so, and then he also has done a couple other things. So anyway, they can read it more in the book, but that's
wow.
So he's a good being, and unfortunately, I don't have an interaction with him anymore, and I will tell you why. Because after a lot of things going on, and if they can read it about it in the book, but lots of things happened to me. My life threatened, my family life threatened. Many things happened. I was ran off the road. I was hit by in a car accident where it was absolutely was them that did it. And I was chased and things like that. And it was becoming, once they started in on my family and actually verbally said, "I'd be real shame if something happened to that nice little granddaughter of yours. Isn't she 3 years old?" And I said, "How would you know?" And they said, because this happened, supposedly they were going to meet with me and they said that they were somebody that I wanted to interview. I was interviewing people who, for this book that Melinda, Leslie, and I were working on. And so I met him at a restaurant, and he said he was, he walked in, and first thing out of his mouth, words out of his mouth is, "Well, my mom, I haven't been a busy little girl." He says, he said, "It'd be a real shame if any of those, anything happened to your cute little granddaughter. What's she, 3 now? And yours 2 sons, and one of them's the one, and her mother. Would be a real shame if something happened." He says, they dig up people's bones in the desert all the time. And so it made me decide, after everything that had happened, including being abducted by Melinda and I were abducted and taken to an underground facility in California, and we were taken right out of my house in the middle of the night, taken in, and we are being interrogated, and then he was a lieutenant colonel, and he was cussing me out and interrogating me, and he says, I'm going to tell you one other thing. He says, you have got to go home, get yourself a husband, and get out of this, because it's not going to bring you any happiness. You've been warned over and over to get out of this, to stop talking about it, and now I went on Art Bell's radio show, and he said, with George Segal, and he said, you got to stop doing this, and to bring the point home how serious we are, I want you to meet somebody. And he walked out of the room, and a very large reptilian, like I've never seen anything quite like it. It, I think, had little wings even in the back, because it had little tufts of something in the back, and it had a more of a dragon look to it than any reptilian I'd seen. And it came and bent down, walked across the floor, and I actually saw its tail, so I knew it had a tail. First one I really only can tell you that had a tail for sure that I saw. And he leaned down, looked in my eyes, and showed me this image of these ninja guys in black uniforms chopping my family to pieces. So after that happened, and then subsequently having the interview afterwards where the guy threatened me, I decided to get out of it, and I did. And one of the nights,
how do you get out of it?
I'll explain to you. Well, first of all, you take I take all of my written material, my audios, and my everything I had been doing it for a couple of years for this book that we were writing, and I gave it all back to Melinda. I also gave away, I was bidding out of everything UFO. I gave all my books away. I came back home, on my way back, I was coming back home to talk to my family, and I was ran off the road by an unmarked van. I survived that. And then I got home, and I told my family I was quitting. I spent the time with them, and then when I returned back to California, I turned my car in to get it fixed, and then I was driving across town because I ran off the road, so I did have some damage because I hit a tree, a cactus tree, and then driving across town to turn over my books to this person I wanted to give them all to. I got hit broadside by somebody who spun my car around 3 times, and he was totally military. Was no doubt about it. The things he said to me, and walking up to me with this kind of aggressive, very aggressive, and saying, he said, "You did this. You did this. Remember, you did this. You did this." I did not. I did not cause this. But he was telling me, you did this because you're not getting out of it. And I think that's what he was saying, that you did this. That's why. So I then got away from all of that stuff. I stopped doing anything, but I was just to the point of, I just couldn't stand it anymore. And, it's not like I wanted to commit suicide, but I thought if I did, maybe my family would be safe. But that night, instead of going off the cliff like I had thought about, I had an experience where I was standing in front of this half moon council. There was all types of different ETs. 4 of them were human. There was a reptilian, there was a mantis, there was a being that was just energy, on my left, just energy. There was another one that was, I don't know what you'd call it. It was kind of, it was the least human looking, though it still had a head and two arms and a body and 2 legs. Anyway, so, and I said to them, because I knew immediately where I was, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Please, I have to come home. Please let me come home. Please let me come home. And I knew at that very moment I wasn't from here. I was from elsewhere. Like, so many of us are that were starseeds here doing a mission. And I said, I want to come home. And they said, but beloved, do you not remember you asked for this mission? You must complete it. And now, telepathically, again, all of these are telepathic. And the interesting thing about it is when they spoke, it was like an energy lit up. Maybe it was their chair. Can't say for sure, but I guess it could have just been a light around their chair. But each time anybody spoke to me telepathically, I could tell who it was speaking. One that did most of the talking looked kind of like what I consider Babaji looked like. So anyway, I said, I just can't do it anymore. And they said, you must finish your mission, and do you not remember? And I said, okay, but I can't do it. It's going to cause my family to die. I can't do it. And they said, well, then what we can do, we can help you cancel your contracts. So I remember seeing all these contracts on this marble table, or something that looked like a marble table, and I canceled all my contracts. Now that was my government, my monarch, my ET, all the different ETs and everything. So since then, I have not had any more experiences of a physical nature. I do still have them astrally, and just, some experiences where I go astrally and I connect with ETs that I actually speak galactic language, and I talk to them and communicate and translate. But I don't have physical onboard experiences anymore, which also means I'm not being abducted by the government, and of course the deal was also to protect my family. And they said that they have sent me a protector and that we are protected. So
did you love any of your aliens? Did you love Ayano?
Yes, well, I did. I still love Ayano. Ayano was always good to me. I don't have ever any memory of a physical relationship with him in this lifetime. I do remember being in two other lifetimes with him, where I was actually his spouse. But yes, I loved him, and in fact, he was the protector that they sent. Not only he, but an Iargan group of beings that were there to protect my children. So they may be the ones that are still with them. I don't know, but they are protected. Right. And in fact, they aren't even. I don't know. I believe for sure that they're hybrid starseeds in my lineage with the kids and the grandkids and stuff. But I don't believe they're contacted. I believe it's kind of like a hands-off thing.
Okay, but given the astral contact that you've had since then, what are the main things they want you to tell everybody?
Well, I'll tell you. They said they have been communicating with people for so very, very long, and individuals are being communicated to, and they just want you to listen and understand that there are so many races here that are not that are coming here that are not their service to others, and they have no ill will for us, and they in fact want us to help us, and they just want to communicate. And so one of my missions is to help people who might be having these galactic connections, and maybe they're hearing this galactic language, or all of a sudden they find themselves speaking it, but then they stop, because they wonder what it is. They're being communicated with, and they want many translators for when the time of great change comes. And that's what they told me, that we are translators for when the time of great change comes.
What do you mean by that, or what do they mean? What is this time of great change? What's that? What is it?
I don't know what that is. I've just been told the time of great change. And I kind of feel it's when the disclosure comes, when they actually come on to our planet and live among us. or tried to, communicate. Like, for instance, Valiant Thor was a good example of that. Valiant Thor tried to come to our planet and tell people that we're from Venus and we don't mean you any harm. We're peaceful. We just want you to start being peaceful and that type of thing. So I believe that's what the time of great change is, when we actually live together. And I believe the hybrids that are, and then maybe in the last 20, even 30 years, the hybrids are here to, this is what I was told, exactly the word verbiage is, we are a bridge between your civilization and our civilization. And we are here to help the connection, basically. That was what I said. They just said, we're a bridge to your civilization and our civilization. And then, because like I said, it's in concepts as well, when they're talking to you. So I got this strong vision that, the hybrids that are living here are going to wake up at some point and start or recognize their ET heritage. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Their partial ET heritage, yeah.
Do you see anything like that in your grandchildren?
Oh, my, yes. Yes, very much so. I see, mostly in my last 3 grandchildren, maybe 4 grandchildren, I see it the most. But the grandchildren, the hybrid starseed, I call them hybrid starseeds, is the best way I can do it. Because, like, for instance, with one couple, my son and his wife are both experiencers. So I believe probably their hybrid is a hybrid, whereas the other ones they have genetics, I think, that are done in maybe in utero or something like that. But I do believe there's genetics going on for sure. And they're so smart. They're just extremely intelligent. They're very gifted. They are very kind and loving children. They're children. They'll do some things wrong and stuff like that. But the basis of the kids, they don't understand how other kids can be mean, and they're just really kind souls. And I believe this is a better generation that is coming, that is going to be coming here, and is coming here, I should say, and is being birthed here.
Yeah, it really seems like that they are dual souls with the group mind, the empathy, and the individuality. Both they're duals. Yes, they are duals. Yes, that is a perfect way to put that. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That is a perfect. They are like dual souls.
Wow. So, having led this life that had all these horrendous things, and now you're such a kind, loving, conscious person. Well, what was the value of that? You gained something. Obviously, I can tell just by looking at you and hanging with you, being around you. But what do you think was the benefit of all this suffering that you endured? What did you learn?
Well, it's a really simple answer, in my opinion. It's just that I become, because of all the experiences that I had, I become a more understanding and loving and compassionate person because of it. And I mean, it's really to me as simple as that. And I think that people have endured different degrees of trauma in their life, and I think it happens for a purpose. It teaches us very much. It teaches us compassion, and I'm a non-judgmental facilitator of my groups. My hypnotherapy, I do hypnotherapy for specializing in trauma release therapy. I also work with people on their AT experiences, and I'm just a better person, I think, because of it. I'm very simplistic. I'm kind of a simplistic kind of person, but it's just really that easy. And I think the ETs really want us to know that it is that easy, that we can be everything and more, like say, let me give you an example of valiant Thor. He was a very good example of a very kind person that was compassionate, and Pleiadians are another good example. They're very loving and kind. I just think that we are a duty to make our civilization more loving and non-judgmental and not so much bigotry and everything like that. I have to get on my high horse now. I better get off of it. But that's about it.
I like your high horse. Yeah.
It's just love.
Sasha.
It's all about love. And they tell me this all the time. They said it's about love. Yeah.
And what do they mean by that? It sounds like a cliche, but what do they mean by that? It's about love.
It's about unconditional love of fellow man. And no matter what you look like, what color you are, whatever language you speak, why should it matter? It's about love.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
That's what I get to. Go ahead, Sasha. You had something you want to say.
Well, it's for me the challenge is.
I have to go.
How can you love the military and the Satanists who harmed you? Can you love them too, Miesha?
I forgive them. That's it. I can forgive them. I forgave them. Yeah, I have forgiven them. But yeah, I guess maybe forgiveness is a form of love. I don't know, but I can't say that I love them. No, I can't say I love them. And see, that's why I am still here. I haven't conquered all of it yet. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, and I know you have to go in about 4 minutes, but yeah, one of the things I've learned is about the love. The unconditional love is about just accepting the entire play that we've created. This whole dichotomy, polarity. We all together, at the highest level of our existence, our higher selves, oversouls, have created this passion play, and some chose to be the victims and some the villains. So at the end of the play, we applaud everybody, and who gets the biggest applause? But usually the villains. When the actors come out to play the villains, it's like they were the catalyst that got us to the next level. So that's the only way I can civil it and begin to move into loving and
very well said.
Accepting the other people. Yeah.
The way
very well said.
The way I get it is that. For me, the key is to look at the parts of myself that have sacrificed other parts, have killed other parts of myself, or parts of me that have forced other parts to get in line, like the military did in a brutal way. So that I'm really talking about parts that just need integrating, and if I can integrate them in myself, then I'm at peace with the external other, because those are just figments of me as a larger oversoul. Or that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah,
very well said. Yes, very well said. Yes, I'm eloquent in my speech. Is not my high suit, but I do enjoy speaking and living on this planet.
Well, I always enjoy talking with you, Miesha, and I know you have to go.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes. Can I just tell them about?
Yes, go ahead.
My book and yes. Okay. All right. So it is Amazon.com. It's they weren't flowers. They weren't butterflies. A monarch survivor story. And then the other one is about my MILAB experience. And for the life of me, I don't have it with me, and I can't remember what it's called. But if you pull up Miesha Johnston, you can see the other book. It's a purple cover, and you can see that book. So you can get them on Amazon.com. And I also I've worked with another gal, and we've put together some oracle cards that are for people who do readings and such, and they are experiencer oracle cards. So they take in every aspect of the experience, including the mind control and the MILAB and our ET experiences and star seeds and hybrids and everything like that. So they can purchase those on my website. That's starseedawakening.org. And they can also, I have channeled these charts that I use for people in the readings, and it's a galactic chart for you to find out what your galactic federation or your galactic planet of origin is. And so I have those with a pendulum and the chart and the information, and it's also kind of a reading. I have those on my site. And I have my own radio show. I am now joined with some other people I brought on board. Mary Munoz and Hannah Thorsen are my co-hosts. And every Saturday on KCOR Radio on Starseed Awakening Radio, I have 12 to 2.
And you do your Vector 5 tours.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and I do Vector 5 tours, and these are tours which is a kind of a little bit of a combination of a CE5 and meditation. But I do it quite different than a CE5, but it's similar. And then at the end of because we have a meditation and we vector in the ships and such as that. And then with night vision goggles, you get to see the ships that we vectored in. We always have good sightings, and I have that on. You can also go to vector5tours.com is my website. Vector5tours.com is my website.
The number 5 or Vector 5 spelled
it's
out?
Number 5. Vector, the number 5, tours.com.
.com. And then you're going to be at UFO Congress sharing a table with me and Sasha.
You guys, you folks. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Looking forward to it.
That's the middle of February at UFO Congress.
14th through the 18th in Scottsdale.
Yes, so come over and say hi to all of us, and buy a book, get a reading, do something, or just come up and talk to us. We'd like to get to know you.
Really, yeah. I got this great binder book with all kinds of ETs on it with some of the stories. I mean, you don't even have to buy my book. You can come in and look at that binder of all those pictures and some of the pictures that are in my book. So,
yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for having me on the show. Really enjoyed it. Always love talking to you folks.
Yeah.
We look forward to next time.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Off for now.
Aloha.
Okay, good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Happy birthday to your grandchild.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And peace and love. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'd like to tell you about our next guest. Our next guest is our sometime host, Janet Kira Lessin. Are you still there, Janet?
I am, but I just wanted to, before we go to that, just ask a bad painter what he thought of all that. If he had any questions or feedback, or before we switch, because this another half an hour.
Been around for quite a long time. I really enjoy listening to her. She really brings an upbeat attitude to something that is very traumatic.
Yeah, I find it amazing that she has gone through that and still is, conscious, and she's not in a mental institution, not sitting there drooling and, she's lost her mind.
The human spirit can overcome anything.
Right. She's such an inspiration. And then, Sasha, you have worked with people in your practice over the years that have similar things. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go on to the next thing.
Well, it's what you need to really look at is the person in their entire context. And even though the person is now relating to their therapist all these criminal acts of murder and rape that go on in these things, they're not going to run out and tell the cops, because the cops are, because for one thing, they're under death threats, their relatives are under death threats, and the cops are sometimes part of the same trip. And then there's the innocent people who will be shattered by by now having some of their relatives put in jail. And so it's so complicated. If there's no automatic anything for a person caught in these kind of dilemmas, they need a lot of assistance. And the best thing is not just trained therapists, but also other people who have had similar experiences. We used to have these spiritual emergence centers. This is a very, very serious and widespread thing. My colleague Lessin has said there's been this huge involvement of the clandestine government in the childhood abductions from the national parks and elsewhere, children being used in all kinds of horrendous ways. And you'll also know from some of our interviews with some of the people that have actually been abducted and used in slave markets and by extraterrestrials. I know it sounds not like what most people are used to hearing, but as a therapist, when we see people and we look at their eyes and their eyes are steady, they're not going from side to side, and we understand by looking at, we can tell whether people are making stuff up or not. We say they're not making stuff up. This is a memory they have. And then we start talking to other therapists and reading the literature. You see, hey, this is a pattern. It's not just these few people that I've got. And so there's something happening here, and it's getting very clear. And it's a society-wide thing where the people that run the society are put in these compromising positions and photographed, and then they're blackmailed to do whatever the agenda for the black projects guy that run the thing. And the ETs are trying to help us. They are trying to get us free of this crap and help us evolve to a society where we care about one another, and it's not always us against them and me, everybody else.
Right. So this polarity game, though, that's what, okay, you were going to introduce. Go ahead. Do your introduction. Let me go to the next step.
Okay, yes. So for our next guest, we have a fractal, or a present life embodiment of the Sumerian goddess Nimma from the planet Nibiru, who's basically the mitochondrial mother of all humanity. Our ancestors came from her womb. We've suckled at her breast. You should pardon the expression, Facebook, if you're listening. This is our real mother. This is Nimma. And this morning she came through the body of my beloved Janet. And this is the message that she gave to Janet.
Right. So I channel. I get a lot of information. And I read this first thing in the morning. And I meant to go back and edit it because I just kind of typed it in that state, like Miesha talked about. You're kind of like in this semi-conscious fugue state, and so you're reconnecting back to this realm. But I am, when I'm doing these things, I'm conscious, but I am connected to two dimensions. This one and wherever I'm accessing information. And anyway, here's what came through. I've always felt like a stranger living in a strange world, a planet not of my soul's origin. My cousin Lois died a few days ago. She was 2 years older than me. Her birthday in March, so that would make her 65. My cat Athena has disappeared. Haven't seen her since before Thanksgiving. All these add to my feeling sad to this stranger to a strange land phenomena. I've identified through counseling, hypnosis, meditation, dreams, and daydream reflection that I am a soul whose primary origination is not of the earth. I identify as one of my primary soul threads as Nimma, the mother, creator, goddess of humanity. I am also Kira, a being who leads a group of souls that come into third dimensional reality to design and populate planets, making them habitable and enjoyable by sentient life forms. We are terraformers. We gather energy and material and form worlds with our minds. I usually begin the process as I am the oldest soul, and I'm teaching others of our team. Some design the terrain from mountains, rivers, seas to plains. Others design flora and fauna. Others specialize in insects, and some specialize in land animals, while others focus on oceans. We bring in life forms from other planets. Each ecosystem we create is different than others on other worlds. So no matter what life we introduce, it diversifies over time. We do that intentionally to create variety. We are artists in a sense, and our palette of colors is DNA. We enjoy what we do. There's no monetary payment like you have on this planet Earth. We find money is a very silly and dangerous system that encourages greed and creates extreme harm over time. Our reward comes Our reward comes from creating and giving to the universe. We are eternally connected to We are eternally connected to those from all levels of form and beingness that will enjoy these habitats we design. My planetary self is one of my most enjoyable. I simultaneously exist on many levels, vibratory frequencies, dimensions, timelines, universes, planes of existence. However you symbol it, whatever you call it, I am. In essence, I am God, Goddess, as are we all. I have just become aware of that fact. But as human in this volatile time that dwells in this extremely fragile humanoid form, I am very conscious and aware that I must never get too full of myself. Human life on Earth is extremely humbling. And while I am well aware that I dwell in an illusionary state and write to you, the other volunteers who agreed to come here and experience this grand experiment, God bless us. God bless you, you silly things. As this new dawn breaks, I smile to myself and think, what were we thinking? Yet this world is one of extreme beauty, one of the team's greatest creations. Good job. So while I suffer momentary episodes of judgment and remorse in my human body, which is extremely emotional and over time becomes even more so, I also access awareness of the divine perfection of it all and feel a wee bit proud of myself and all of us who've agreed to come here. I'm also joy, and I reside 39 degrees from the source, from the singularity of all existence. I move in and out of oneness and universal consciousness, eternally connected at all times with the central core of creation and each and every one of you. That awareness makes my human heart glow with unconditional love and extreme compassion, understanding, and appreciation for each and every one of you. I am eternally grateful for what you've done. While things may seem both dire and desirable at times, we're actually on course with our original plan and victory as well within sight. I'm delighted that I was able to access Janet from this highest aspect of herself to convey this information to you in hopes that I can encourage you to hang tight, endure, and find joy each day, even in the darkest of times when things seem most horrendous. We are alive, always connected. We agree to experience the illusion of separation and division to accomplish our mission, and it's working even better than we imagined. Realize you are here because you enjoy playing in our unified illusion, and everything we've created together here in a polarity play between good and evil, light to dark, is intentional. Soon humanity reaches childhood's end. All species and all times and variations of this planet that exist and may be accessed and overlaid over this current paradigm at any time. So while the daily news may blast disastrous negative things regarding all the far corners of this earth, the time of variation of existence still exists and may be brought forth to overwrite this current one. We as co-creators with Source continually design and redesign. We're never stuck with something we dislike or it no longer feels right or serves us and all we love. So if you don't like it, change it to that which you do. Change it for everyone, from closest family to people around the planet. Find the scenario that serves all. We needn't wait for some far distant future. We do it all the time. We go to bliss, experience eternal love and oneness, then return to this passion play we created to feel and experience all variations on the theme of existence. We're not done nor ever will be. If you grow weary of the game, take a break and go experience something different. Remember at all times, you create this. You are creating this and recreate this in each moment. Enjoy the sun, a smile, your cat's meow, go play with your human friends, pull the best out of each and every one of them, inspire them to be their best version of themselves, no matter what hand they were dealt. Remind them that they too are God. Figure out a way to remind themselves, to remind them without offending their belief systems. Remember, this human form is fragile. We design maximum emotional experience potential for most species only feel within a small range. While this extreme polarity is the most dangerous and volatile, with unstable crazies poising their fingers above atomic bombs, you and I and all who read or hear this can stop them with our minds. We are all that powerful. Think good thoughts always and make it so. Love thy neighbor as you would yourself. Oh, right, that's half the problem. Many do not love themselves. Learn to love yourself and do whatever it takes to forgive yourself. You agreed to come into this game and go unconscious. You designed the game with the rest of us who volunteered to come to Earth. So let it go and love yourself. Then love those around you. And proceed to the next circle of people and love them. Proceed till you love them all. Select the people who best vibrate with you at your frequency and adapt them just so you create a coherent field. Then expand that field out exponentially till you include the whole world and everything in it. Anyway. Back to you, Sash. I read it. Feedback, comments.
That was beautiful, sweetheart. I feel really inspired. It's really cool if you really imagine that you take somebody that you know, anybody, listener in your world that you find difficult to accept. They bug you in some way, and then just if you can imagine looking in that person's eyes and finding a part of yourself that resonates with that part of the other person you don't like, or whose behavior is bugging you. And once you've done that, you say, oh, I got a part like that too. What does that part really need? Then you can, when you start talking to people about what their needs are, and you share what your needs are, we can work it out at that level. And that's the trick, I think, that's the extraterrestrials are trying to tell us. We need to both feel our individuality and our group empathy. You can be part of something bigger and still be an individual with your own talents and interests. And that's the end of polarity. There isn't any other. We're all part of the same show. And I think you've so eloquently stated that, Janet. And the fact that we're now able to reach out through the airways and talk to all of you and tell you to be a little bit more loving in your life, to give just a little bit more and to the people around you, and watch the world get better and better.
Right. And so, I've been so moved by everything that's going all around me, in the news, on the internet, wherever you go. People are polarizing, taking up a perspective, digging their heels and rejecting and projecting. And, I don't watch television. I can't imagine what I would be like if I watched television. I'm so kind of hurt and astonished and destabilized by just what I get in my phone and on the internet. But, this is craziness, and it affects my dreams, and it affects my emotional state, and I know it affects all of us everywhere, and it's like living in a war zone, and we haven't even started war. It reminds me what my parents went through, and they both suffered through World War II, and my mother and that generation, they suffered in the Depression, and they had PTSD. So I have PTSD. I'm sure most of us feel like we have PTSD. And so, when I get into all this stuff here on this human level, I take myself up to the higher level and the higher perspective and ask Source. And I say, what in the world were we thinking when we created all this? And then I go to sleep, and my subconscious processes all this information. I get downloads and feeds from my guides and assistants, and they've been showing themselves to me for many, many lives. I've had, just like Miesha, I haven't. My experience wasn't as negative as hers, and I feel God bless everybody that's gone through all that stuff, and what a horrendous world that such things even exist, that you have people doing satanic rituals and MILABs and MK Ultra and all this stuff that these people go through. My experiences, for the most part, were very kind and loving. I am somehow connected with the higher ETs. I've met, all the different species, reptilians and greys and mantis and everything in between, and 100,000 plus different species, and all the ones that I experienced were part of this Federation of Love, Federation of Planets. And yet, I guess there is this polarity that exists because we're getting the reports about it. But what are your thoughts on all this? Because what is going on? You've been researching it through different people who channel, people like Stuart Swerdlow, who was involved with the Montauk Project, and listeners, we're just here trying to figure it all out, and we report to you what we learn. We open-mindedly interview people, get their stories, and keep going. I don't like to judge people. I'm a counselor / therapist, do hypnotherapy, and I like to facilitate people as they go into their memories and try to figure out what happened to them, what's real, what's imagined. And as you always say, Sasha, go ahead and make it up. Where are we making it up from? Are we accessing the stories that exist out in the cosmos from the dawn of time, like the Akashic Records, when we do make it up, so to speak? Go ahead, Sasha, you say something.
One of the most important things is to realize that different people experience the world differently. And nothing's more right than anything's wrong. It's all, like we grasp the elephant that's reality from as blind people from different places. And so one blind person thinks the elephant feels like a tree, another that like a snake because he's got the trunk and so forth. So you start with this idea that different people use different metaphors and symbols to express what they're trying to express. And if you can get into that, whoever is talking to you, you can understand them. One of the things that Paul Radin found when he studied shamans and priests in different cultures and different traditions is that all the highest people always come to the same set of conclusions. They just symbol stuff differently, but it's the same thing, that there's some kind of source that includes everything, and a playfulness that creates polarity. And there's a transcendence of each of the polarities, self, not self, body, mind, mate, family versus you, your village versus the other village, those people over there versus, you start seeing that whatever you think ain't you is really a part of you. As you mature, your sense of self grows so that you empathetically feel in your heart more and more people. That's the maturation process, and it's perfect. Dig it. It couldn't be any other way. It's really perfect the way it is. I know some people want to doom and gloom it, and some people want to hallelujah it, but it's all perfect. Dig it. This is your life. This is the only time you've got. Do it. Have your life now. Do what you're going to do now. This is the only time you got.
Right. And that was the beginning of my essay, that my cousin that I grew up with, that I've known since, we were babies together, just dropped her dead. So you never know which day, which moment is your last moment. And so being present in the now, maximizing your potential, doing what you came here to do, your mission, figuring that out, finding your soul's purpose, doing the therapy that keeps you locked in trauma and drama and lack, and working out for yourself. And the more people that they work it out for themselves, the more affects the matrix, the morphogenic field, which affects all of creation. So we are empowered in that way, that we can up-level all of existence and create the outcome that we all desire. And there is a win for all. There's a place where we can all meet in love and gratitude and forgiveness, and make it happen so that everybody gets their needs met and everybody, has a good feeling about life and existence. And there were more of those types of moments, I guess, when I was a child and lacked in the illusion that my parents created, that everything was all good, fine, and dandy. But in some ways, things were, it was like a golden age back in the 50s and 60s. And at least for a while there, we had Camelot, you know. We have about 2 minutes. Go ahead, honey.
Well, I think it's useful to just imagine that you're way old. Everybody out there listening, to imagine you're way old and you're really healthy and happy, and all the people you love are here to have a party and celebrate you. And you're going to tell them how you got to live such a great life, and what did you accomplish in that life, and now that that everything really turned out great for you. How did it turn out? What are you telling them about your life? And that's a good thing to do. Janet, what do you say to the world about what you accomplished in this lifetime?
Wow, well, that's a big thing, and I have about a minute to answer it.
Let's have a short version.
Well, there are children that are born because I've worked with their parents and I help them work out their differences, and that's a great sense of accomplishments. I've actually saved lives of people who would have died, and I figured it out and intervened and got them to the hospital in time and all those kinds of things. So, I'm only 5'2", and I'm just a female, and all these things, these lacks and limitations, I imagine over myself. But when it comes to it, I can really do great and amazing things, and so can you and everybody else there. If you just access that part of that superhero part of yourself and channel that into existence for yourself and for your family and friends, and make it happen. And I didn't think I could, because I was shy and hid behind my mother's skirts. And as I grew up and learned to figure out who I am, my mission in life, and empower myself and stop being shy and get over it, and get up on the stage and do things that I never imagined I could, like a little train said, I think I can. I actually did, and I'm not even done with my journey, so it's been a great show.
Wow. So, thank you so much for listening to our show. We love
Thank you. Aloha. Yes, we do.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Most freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. we are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting the danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country is founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.